Before you listen to this episode, I want to remind you that it's not too late to rate and review the podcast in iTunes and receive 1 month of free access in the membership, so you can be joining us in our upcoming workshop to work with emotional freedom technique, also known as tapping, in order to let go of the mom's guilt, leave it with 2021, and start 2022 with self-forgiveness.
Raising teens alone can be brutal. It becomes easier when you are co-parenting with the universe. Thank you for being here. I'm very excited to transition to this new podcast. And today we're going to talk about block number 2 in co-parenting with the universe, which is being confused on how to do that. How do I do that? I'm not a psychic. I'm not an energy worker. I don't know. There is a way. First of all, so we talked about last episode, we talked about block number 1, which was remembering that it's available to you. The more you remember, the more you see it present in your life. This week, this episode, block number 2, it just comes down to asking to be shown a way. And if you listen to my episode last week, and I told you all about our adventure with the dental surgeon and my daughter, and how we got the sign and how obvious it was, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't, you can go and listen to that, and even after. But what I run into is personally and with clients and with people is asking for a sign, and then how do you know that it's a sign? First of all, when I ask for a sign, I always ask for something obvious in my face, like no doubt. And that couldn't have happened, like not something that happens every day, something unusual. So that's one way of doing it. How to do it? Make it so that it's obvious, talking to you and in your face kind of sign or guidance. The second way, because now the debate is everything can be a sign. And because of the way that our brain and the reticular activating system part of our brain, which acts like a filter between our beliefs, our inner world, and our conviction, and what we see in the outer world, to bring coherence between the two, your brain will only notice what you believe. And the rest will be erased, because our eyes can see, I think it is, I forgot the exact number, but it's at least 100 times, if not 1,000 times, more information than what our brain can register. We can see, but it won't register in the brain, because there will be some sorting that's going to happen. There is too much stimuli for the brain to be able to deal with all of it, so some of it is erased, and it only takes what's pertinent to us based on what we believe, based on our past references, based on what we're thinking about, etc. So that's where it becomes tricky with the subject of signs. Unless they're really obvious and in your face, anything can be interpreted as we want it to be. Do you know that? Have you ever experienced that? I know you probably did, because I did too. We mold it the way we want it to be, especially if we have to make a decision we don't want to make. So one way of removing that is ask for something obvious and in your face. Another way, I'm very big on writing when I work with clients or students or members in my membership, writing. and writing in a way where your conscious mind will not get in your way of getting what you need to get from your unconscious mind. And one way of doing that is starting to write with a prompt. And let me give you an example. You need to make a decision for your teenager. Like, I needed to make a decision about changing countries for my son. I wasn't sure if that was the right thing. I would start with, if I knew what to do, I would. Or, the best thing for my son is. And I start writing. Another way you could say, I trust that it is best for my son too. But really one of them is if I knew what to do, I would. If I knew what to do, I would. And you write whatever's coming to your mind. And the key here is to time yourself for at least 5 minutes, uninterrupted, not lifting the pen from paper, which means if you have to rewrite. Actually, I have a better prompt for an indecision and confusion. What I could do is, that's the best one, because then ideas will flow. And don't lift the pen from the paper. If you have to rewrite 20 times the same sentence, you rewrite 20 times the same sentence until something new comes. If something comes, it doesn't make sense to you, write it anyway. If something comes, seems idiotic, write it anyway. No censoring at all, no stopping at all, and being fully immersed in the exercise, no distraction on the side. Fully spontaneous in the moment with no interruption and no judgment. And then see what comes on paper. You may be very surprised to have ideas that you didn't think about coming before. Another way to do it is, I pull oracle cards, but if that's not your thing, you grab a book and open it randomly, and preferably, any book. You can go to a bookstore and just grab a book and open it and say, what do I need to know about this matter? And open and read and pay attention to what transpires for your specific situation from what's on the paper. Even if they speak about something else, there is always a guidance. Or, I remember I got contaminated by hepatitis B back in 2017, and I almost died. And when I started recovering, and I was very angry about the person who contaminated me, who just disappeared and didn't seem to care, I was not able to have the anger come up. And because of the nature of my experience, it was like grieving. It was my life before Happy and my life after Happy, because I was taking medication and they told me I would be on medication for the rest of my life, which didn't happen because, anyway, I healed after. But that's for another day. That was like a grieving process. And as you know, one of the grieving steps is anger. And I could not access my anger. And I asked my body, and I worked with a friend who worked with techniques that she learned when she was living in Hawaii. She was getting angry and I wasn't. Until a few days later, when I woke up in the morning with such anger that it was consuming. I didn't know how I could live like that. I didn't want to stay like that. So I asked the universe, God, please show me, what do I have to do with that? I don't want to live like that for the rest of my life. What am I supposed to do? Show me. And the most important thing when you are asking is to stay open to any kind of format that this can take. It's like when I was coaching women on dating, I was like, don't be attached to a tall blonde with blue eyes because you may miss your guy. You need to be flexible enough for the universe to deliver the best, highest potential for your highest good, and see it, notice it. So on that day, I did a prayer. I said, show me. And I had some leftover credit from Audible, the audiobooks, and I wanted to stop or pause the account. So I said, okay, I'm going to use that before it disappears. And some book that I was not at all resonating with the author. I didn't like her. I never liked her. Suddenly I felt the urge to buy that book. I said, okay, strange, but that may be my answer. And I bought it. And I went to the gym and I started listening to the book. And after an hour, I was back to inner peace. The anger had been processed through my body and out through listening to the guidance in that book. So had I been unflexible on the format that it should have taken, like I was, for example, expecting someone to tell me something or some kind of something that I would see or read, or so, I wouldn't have noticed the urge in my body to buy that book, even though I didn't like the author. She was not my style at all. So ask and stay open and notice what's showing up in your body. Our bodies are antennas. I had once the urge to go to Starbucks. I was with my son in the car. I said, I feel like going to this Starbucks. Let's stop. And I got out of the car and went into the Starbucks. And while I was waiting for my Starbucks, talking to my son in French, a guy approached me and started talking to me, and I got a Reiki client out of that. So start paying attention to where you are and what you feel and what's around you. Because another way that guidance may show up for you, it's called a Cleton. It's hearing someone else talk that doesn't seem to be directed to you, but it's the exact solution to your problem, the exact answer. I'm going to repeat, you may have heard me say that anecdote, but I tell it a lot in interviews because I love it. When my son was 13, I enrolled him with Big Brothers Big Sisters, which is an organization, a nonprofit organization in the US, to match adults with kids who need a male or female role model, positive one, because they don't have it in their life. So they would match an adult male with a young boy so that they could start identifying to something positive, and it helps them. And they would build a friendship. Let's say they didn't have a positive role model for their fathers in their life, or the father wasn't there. So I enrolled my son when he was 13. And they said, he's already old. There is very little hope that we will find a match because people want younger kids. They don't want a 13-year-old. They don't want a teen. I said, okay, let's do it anyway. I didn't hear about it for 2 years. And one day we were struggling with something serious with my son, and I didn't know what to do. I was afraid because the system and the school system is very quick at classifying kids and sending them and deciding that they're not fit for regular school and sending them for kids who misbehave, etc. And I was very scared. And I asked God, I asked the universe, show me, what am I supposed to do? Is it a book? What is it? 2 hours later, I remember I was at work. 2 hours later, I got a phone call. And that was Big Brothers Big Sisters. And he was already 15, so even less probability for a match. They told me we have a match. And they're still connected to each other. They've been, for the past 2.5 years, they've been an amazing match. we have so much in common with him, our family, as far as even background. And he works a floor below where I used to work, which means sometimes I was seeing him in the elevator after he was matched with my son and we were talking. I mean, what are the odds of that? That's divine intervention. That's co-creating. That's the universe assisting me. So everything is possible. Don't forget to ask and don't be confused. Just stay with your mind open. Believe it, that the way you ask is okay. Believe that whatever you're going to end up writing on your paper will give you some insights. And maybe it won't do the first time, but maybe you'll do the exercise several times. Stay committed to the process. So that's block number 2, that you're getting out of the way with today's ideas, being confused on how to do it. If you take a step, the universe will meet you. And it will even give you more ideas than I gave you today, because there are many others. So I hope it helps. As always, I'm open to feedback. In the Facebook group, Co-Parenting with the Universe, I'm open to getting to know you, interacting. I love, love, love interacting with you. And until we see each other again, go and co-parent with the universe. Have a wonderful experience with it. Mwah.